How to Train Your Dragon makes a splash, the return of Spaceballs, major update from Disney Pixar, and so much more on this episode of Beyond the Screen. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting edition of Beyond the Screen. I'm your host today. My name is Ryan, and with me, as always, is Jake Holtzclaw. Jake, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Emily's also in the background, and you guys were, I guess, what's the word? Bonding over your tea.
Yes.
Neither of you asked what I was drinking.
Jake, what are you drinking today on this
Not tea.
fine afternoon?
Not tea. It's like it's a de-stress or like help you sleep Mio that I spray into a bottle.
Huh. So wait, so how does that work?
I don't know.
Oh.
It's a blueberry lemon, and it just says like a sleep aid or like a de-stress or like stress relief.
Does it have like melatonin in it?
I guess. I didn't read it.
De-stress mine. Just grabs it off the shelf.
Blueberry.
Oh, even worse. Blueberry.
And then they had another one next to it that was like a citrus blue raspberry or something like that. And it's like electric blue. Oh. And it was actually the exact opposite. It was actually caffeinated.
Oh.
it was for exactly the opposite. And so I made one of those big picture, like lemonade pictures of it.
Yeah.
I just sprayed the whole Mio into it and just filled it up with sink water.
Oh, ugh. Not. Yeah. So my weekend's been
Ryan,
good.
How are you?
Yeah, my weekend's been great. This past week I've been very productive. I'm very excited about what I have to report back. Did I start reading the book that I highlighted last week? No, I'm finishing The Hobbit. But I did watch two amazing films, and one of them we'll get into in depth here in a couple seconds. But the second one or I guess I should say the first one I watched was Wes Anderson's newest film, The Phoenician Scheme. And I promised Emily that I wouldn't go too far. By the way, Emily is here directing full time in her first episode. So but historically, she's been doing one segment at a time, getting kind of acclimated to how we do our thing. And she is just so fantastic that it's just time to hand it over. So if you like what's going on, give Emily a round of applause. She's going to do fantastic.
Don't.
It wasn't me. But going back to what I was saying, we won't talk about a lot of this like in depth. I won't harp on things. But The Phoenician Scheme, Wes Anderson's newest film, I watched it last week, and it is his best of this decade. It is better than Asteroid City. I have a soft spot for Asteroid City because the color palette, I just love it. It's so aesthetically pleasing. And I thought it was funny. Like I thought it like it hit for whatever reason, the Wes Anderson like gimmick gets me. I don't know why it cracks me up so much, but it's definitely better than The French Dispatch. It is just so smart, and it's so like witty as normal Wes Anderson films are. But it's serious. Like there's a very strong feeling of like there's like a father-daughter bonding that goes on, and like kind of like you understand these characters as they go into like the trauma that they dealt with. It's very, very strong. So, and then again, we'll get into what I watched just yesterday here in a couple seconds. But Jake, before we move on, besides drinking Mio, what you been doing? Boxes.
The other elephant.
Yeah, boxes in the background.
In the room. I'm moving.
Hey!
It has been more than actually it's a year last month. So yeah. I've paid another outrageous month of rent because I went to a monthly to find another spot that I really like, and Ryan has agreed to help me move on Friday. Right before we start shooting a short film.
Yay!
And so we're going to be very tired, and no promises that I'll have the setup for the podcast ready by Monday. It might be the first and only thing in that apartment.
There's a I would love if we come back next week and it's just everything's empty. It's just you, like, you know, like when you move into your first dorm and it's like empty, yeah. And that might be what we see for you.
It's going to be very echoey if so, because that place has hardwood and this place has carpet.
Ooh.
Yeah, so nice. Y'all going to love it.
But anyway, congrats, Jake, on a new place. That's exciting. Everyone at home is congratulating and clapping.
Let's see. I hope I get a better backdrop. As you guys know, it's been almost a year and
Yeah.
you've just seen all my posters sitting against the wall
Yeah.
with a bunch of boxes behind me. It's because I never moved in. I hated the place so much within the first week that I decided that I wasn't going to stay here. Why would I hang up anything just to take it down? And to be honest, it made the move out process a whole lot easier. So,
Yeah. No,
I,
I'm only excited for you. And if I can remember to do it, we might have pictures for the Beyond the Screen social media followers just to give them a sneak peek at the
those
moving
of you who
process.
care,
Yeah, those of you who care. Anyway, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and end our small talk and go into what always starts our show, our box office news. So as you could see from our lovely graphic here, designed by both Jake and Emily, we have a new number one, and it is from the debuting How to Train Your Dragon live action remake. Coming in at number one again, it's made $84.6 million domestically, $113 million internationally, with a global tally of $197.6. All of these marks are a franchise best for How to Train Your Dragon. Absolutely smashing records for this franchise and for Universal and DreamWorks and so on. The film has received a 77% on the tomato meter and a blistering hot A cinema score, which is, I mean, unheard of. You don't hear an A. You usually get it in the B range, B plus to B minus. This is an absolutely stellar score from audiences coming in for How to Train Your Dragon, the live action remake. So, Jake, I promise we're going to go through these a little bit quicker, but for this one in particular, because we've talked and hyped this film up, talked about how much we love the original and how the remake can be successful, I need to hear your thoughts about where it came in, it earned, but also about the film in general, just in a quick little stance.
yeah. So you left out popcorn meter from the tomato meter. I always like having both. It is a 98%, considered the hottest, um, one of the hottest movies right now in terms of audience score. So what you had said was an A. It's a 98% on popcorn. So that's insane. Um, I did not go see it. I'm not as fortunate as Ryan to uh, see this masterpiece, but I hear things through the vines, through the birds, and it is probably the best example of what to do for a live action. It does it pales in comparison to the original masterpiece. You obviously can never, unless you do the exact you just if you just uploaded the same movie again, you might be able to compete, but this gets darn close to copy and paste. There are some scenes that have changed, there are some scenes that were left out, there are probably some scenes that got added. I haven't heard any about the scenes that got added, but I do know some of the scenes that were um, taken out and altered, and ultimately doesn't take away from the overall how good it is. And people are saying the CGI is awesome. There, I mean, it's like, how did you get Stitch wrong when there's stuff like this out there? I mean, the interaction with Stitch alone, with them petting him, looked so awful. And this is all about real people on CGI dragons and petting dragons. And so, if this exists, what the heck happened with Lilo and Stitch, right? Is it time?
Dude,
Is it, money? Like, they, I would assume, overworked, underpaid.
there are scenes where Toothless is flying and the way it's shot, like it looks like, like how they did in Top Gun Maverick, where it kind of is reminiscent of that, obviously not as intense. But when I remember seeing it being like, that is almost real. Like that looks so, like, obviously when Toothless is just kind of sitting around, like it looks CGI, but he looks like the epitome if he was real. Yeah, I will encompass my thoughts on this. The way that I texted it to you is I put major emphasis on, like, how do they world build something that was so perfect in the animation. And it's a Nordic fantasy is what this is, right? It's almost impossible. They did it. That world feels just as expansive and massive. Like the dragons themselves, like, called them animals, they feel as real as they do in the animation. And it is just like, and all of the characters encompass our actors encompass their characters just into an insane degree. Gerard Butler is stoic. Like it's
No.
uncanny. Like I don't think I'll ever see an adaptation of a character from animation to live that is as true to source as Gerard Butler as stoic.
Those,
Obviously,
those,
sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna say Nick
Oh,
Frost, fantastic.
those who know How to Train Your Dragon 2, and they've teased that they're going to do a live action one of that too after this one. it makes me sad for Gerard Butler, and that's all I'll say because I don't want to spoil it because it's so good.
Yeah. Well, I will say to that effect, I won't say what you're referencing because I know what you're
Right.
referring to, but I will say just before this podcast, I didn't have time to throw it in here, but I'm happy that you brought that up. Director. So the big thing that I took away from this is that if you're going to do a remake, do it like this. This is your blueprint.
Yeah.
Just don't yes, there are I didn't even realize when I was texting Jake about it after I saw it. He was like, what was 30 minutes more of content? Like, how did they add 30 minutes? And I didn't even realize there was 30 extra minutes because it was so well put. There were some things that should have been in that were left out that we won't talk about here because again it'll spoil it for those who haven't seen the animation or the original. But it's just like it develops characters that needed development that they couldn't get in 90 minutes in the original. They do it very well in the 2 hours that they allotted for this one. But Chris DeBlois, I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's something like French Canadian. He was a director of the original. He's now the director of the live action remakes. He was talking to Discussing Film, which is a internet, I follow them on Twitter and on Instagram. They are all the time posting news. He was talking to them and that outlet anyway, and he was referring to how the second one will probably have a lot more creative freedoms, which is a scary thought because of how well this one was. But what you're referencing might not even happen. But to go back, let's just talk about this one. Mason Thames, Nico Parker, all Hiccup and Astrid were Hiccup and Astrid. I was blown away. Snotlout was perfect. He was just perfect. So it's just, I loved everything about this film. It irks me to see the tomato meter at 77 because it's so close to source. The tomato meter for the original was a 99. It's so close. How do you give it anything less than an 85 for something that's as close?
Right.
That really irks me because I feel like it's just it's not. It's like, dude, it's the same film.
Right.
And so
I don't know if it was those scenes. I don't know what they're rating on because it's all subjective, right?
yeah, but it's just
That's why I can never get behind Oscars or like tomato meter. It's like, well, if you're not numbers and out of 5 on every single topic, I don't know how you can come up with that.
yeah. It's just I can get. I can understand trying to give a percentage because at the end of the day, it all evens out. But it is it's frustrating to see a movie that is as true to source. Yes, Mason Thames is not Hiccup from the animation. He is, but he's his own. He would be doing himself a disservice if he just tried to be the animated character. He is, but it's his own take, and it works so well. And
That's
so
what I heard. He at 20 minutes in, he was playing Hiccup, and then he switched to himself, and he played the way that he wanted. I heard that one guy said, first 20 minutes, that's Hiccup from animation.
Yeah.
After that, it's Thames all the way.
And he's better. He's better when he does that. When he makes that switch and when he takes a character and makes it his own, when he embodies the character and not just trying to be what the character was in the original, he does so much better. And so, I don't know how you give this anything less than an 85. I understand there are certain things that change and it's not better than the original. It's just not, because the original is almost perfect. So I understand giving it an 8.5 out of 10, 85%, 4 out of 5, whatever. But to give it a 77 for a film that is the same thing, it captures that world so perfectly. What are we doing?
Times have changed, I guess.
I guess, but no, I highly disagree.
Reviewers, maybe. I don't know. All right.
I'm happy to see the audience cinema score in a 98, 99 on the popcorn. Yeah, great. 98. Anyway, all right, we'll move on. We're going to go through the next 4, so 2 through 5, in quick fashion, and we'll talk about the ones that stood out to us the most. So finishing second is Lilo and Stitch with 15.7 million domestically, with an overall domestic score of 366 million thus far. Globally, it has made 858.5 million. So that's after a month, 4 weeks in theaters, and it's coming up on a Minecraft movie, which that is still your 2025 highest grossing film. It's less than 50 million, under $1 billion for that franchise with Warner Brothers. Lilo and Stitch, in a faster fashion than a Minecraft movie, is around 100 million behind, and it's looking like it's going to catch up. Other notes on Lilo and Stitch: it officially passes fellow live-action Disney remake success The Jungle Book this past weekend. So this is quickly becoming one of their most profitable live-action remakes, not named The Lion King. So great for that film. And we hate watched it, or well, you hate watched it. I haven't seen it. We discussed it, and all the things that have gone on with that film. But good for Lilo and Stitch and that whole crew. Finishing third is Materialist in its debut. finishing with 12 million domestically, 3.5 million internationally for a 15.5 million worldwide haul. This marks the third highest grossing opening for A24 ever. So a fairly successful outing for the indie, everyone's favorite indie distributor. Critics love Materialist, giving it an 86% on the tomato meter, but audiences are a lot more mixed. They're a lot more like meh to the love triangle starring Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, and Chris Evans. It has a B- cinema score, which is like, that's average for horror films. And horror films are notoriously rated lower than your romantic. I don't even know if this is a comedy or a thriller. I don't think it's either. It's just kind of like your love triangle story. So a drama, if you will. So it has a B-. That's low for these kind of films because, made for audiences and they're not really liking it as much, but critics still enjoy it. Finishing fourth is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, coming in with 10.5 million domestically, an overall domestic tally of 166.5 million, 507 million global after 4 weeks in theaters. So doing fairly well, crossing the $500 million mark worldwide. For a film that is, again, the 8th installment starring a 62-year-old Tom Cruise. So fantastic for them. Hopefully we don't see a 9th. I make that comment every week because the more this movie makes, the more I get worried that they're just going to be like, screw it, let's do it.
Yeah, he's going to be in a wheelchair.
No.
Still playing.
Yeah, wheel him out the back. Yeah. No.
Yeah, wheel him out the back.
Please don't. Anyway, finishing fifth is Ballerina, coming in with a 9.7 million domestic total, with an overall, that now brings its overall domestic total to 42.1 million, and its global tally to 91.8 after 2 weeks in theaters. That is still a stumble. That is still a struggle for a film that comes out of a franchise that is absolutely, this is one of the slowest openings since the original John Wick when no one knew what it was. So not great for the Ana de Armas starring spin-off Ballerina. So other notes before we go back and talk quickly about what stood out to us. Karate Kid's Legends and Final Destination's Bloodlines both fall out of our top 25, and Neon's The Life of Chuck gets a broader release, earning 2.1 million, finishing, was it 8th or 9th? I don't have it right in front of me. It finished top 10. It jumped up from what it was before, so good for them. And looking forward to this week, Pixar's Elio and 28 Years Later both open this Friday, and so we'll start there. We'll start there. Do we have any predictions for what the top 5 will look like next week?
So Elio, is that the one that he's like abducted by an alien?
Yes.
Yeah, I gotcha. Versus 28 Years Later. You got to go with the kids, right? Like that's obviously going to be raking in the more money. I would.
Yeah, this is what I'll say. Look at what is top 2. Elio is the exact same demographic.
Yeah.
Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragons and Elio are all 3 the same demographic. So right. I would predict that those 3 are top 3, but I would say all 3 will take a hefty blow. I would
this week. Am I going to do top 5? I think it's going to be How to Train Your Dragon, probably Elio, Lilo. Well, Lilo and 28 Years Later, I think flip-flop.
Really? Ooh, interesting. That is a highly anticipated film.
For the third,
yeah.
I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't know if Materialist holds it.
So I'm right there with you. I think that top 4 in some way, shape, or form. I think How to Train Your Dragons is 1. 2 and 3 are irrelevant because they're going to stay the same. And my main concern here is, does Mission Impossible or Materialist hold out for top 5? That's where I will be very interested because Materialist barely beat out Mission Impossible in its first weekend for 3rd. And now you bring in a highly anticipated horror film and Danny Boyle's 28 Years Later and another Disney film. And the thing is, family films have what has been the thing that saved cinema this year. The Minecraft movie, Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon, now Elio. Like that one's going to be in the top 3. So it's going to push everything else down. So who gets booted? Those 2 that are coming out on Friday are going to be top 4. Which of the 2 that were in there now between Materialist and Mission Impossible? Because I think Ballerina's gone. Which of those 2 holds out for top 5? That's my intrigue.
I think it's Materialist.
I'd be inclined to agree with you. However, and I'm actually going to do this on the fly. Mission Impossible earned 10.5 this week. Last week, Mission Impossible earned 14.8. So it's not dropping by a large margin at all.
Yeah.
The thing is the Materialist coming from an indie developer. It's not Tom Cruise. I can see Materialist dropping more than 4 million, and I don't think Mission Impossible is going to drop below 8. So I'll actually go the opposite direction. I'm going to go Mission Impossible finish out 5, but
It was Father's Day weekend.
maybe
And
the dads are like, I want to go see Tom.
And the Mission Impossible is holding on
Yeah.
for a little longer than it was intended to.
Maybe.
Or they forced him to go to How to Train Your Dragon for Lilo and Stitch.
Dad, you get to pick a movie. It's like anything other than How to Train Your Dragon was not happening, and he knew that.
Yep. So
anyway, anything else?
Those are the predictions.
Anything else you want to say about our top 5? Yeah, no. Anything else you want to say about our top 5 before we go ahead and go to our next segment?
I don't even have to say anything else about top 10. It's really all the same movies we've been talking about for the past 2 to 3 weeks. So nothing really. There's only one other thing that came out, and I don't know what it is. It's the Unholy Trinity by Roadside Attractions. I assume it's a religious movie.
Well, unholy, I guess.
Or a horror movie.
And on that note, we're going to go ahead and end our first segment. So coming up after the break, the return of Spaceballs. Shameik Moore teases Across the Spider-Verse details until he doesn't. And a Hollywood lawsuit on AI. All this coming up next. And welcome back to Beyond the Screen. You've made it to segment 2, where we talk about major news throughout media, Hollywood cinema, and all the above. So we're going to start with arguably the biggest news, in the world of people like Jake. I think it's big news as well, but if you've been a fan of the show, you'll know that Jake has referenced Spaceballs at least once a week. And on that...
And if I haven't outright said it, it's likely a joke that stemmed from Spaceball.
Of course. Literally reference the name Spaceballs or a reference to the film in some way, shape, or form in almost every episode. So with that, Spaceballs is back, and Rick Moranis to return after almost 3 decades away from Hollywood. If you remember, this was a guy that was prominent in cinema in the 80s and 90s, Ghostbusters, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and so on and so forth, including Spaceballs. He left Hollywood to raise his children in 1996 or 98 after his wife passed away. So he had 2 kids, if I remember correctly, he had to raise. And what a man to leave, to walk away. He on top of the world in Hollywood, in the comedy scene, family-friendly movies. Like, this is a guy that was making millions and millions. And he said, I need to do this. And so what a guy. And no one has ever said anything bad about Rick Moranis. But coming back for Spaceballs 2. So this was announced by Amazon MGM, which this is the second installment into the legendary franchise. As we said before, Rick Moranis is coming back as Dark Helmet, Bill Pullman returning as Lone Star, and Mel Brooks is returning as Yogurt. When we were talking about this in our group chat during the week, Jake said it, I quote, "Just hold on a little longer, Mel, please." Because Mel Brooks is, in fact, 98 years old. He hasn't acted in anything in a long time. The film also includes Keke Palmer and Bill Pullman's son, Louis Pullman, who is recently of Thunderbolts fame. They're set to join the cast, as well as Josh Gad, who will also serve as a producer. Josh Greenbaum of Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar fame, which I had never heard of that film before. But he will direct a script by Benji Samit, Dan Hernandez, and Josh Gad. So Josh Gad is very involved in this film. The roles of Palmer, Lewis, and Gad are currently unknown, but Variety says Gad will also star, so we know he's going to be involved. We know he's producing and writing. He's doing everything but direct at this point with this reboot, or this sequel, I should say. Plot details are currently being kept under wraps, but according to Variety, quote, "The film has been described by those who have not yet read the script as a non-prequel, non-reboot sequel part 2, but with reboot element franchise expansion film," which is the most Spaceballs thing I think I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
So what we do
You
know
would
about
know.
well, yeah, right. But like, I get the concept of Spaceballs. I'm not going to sit here and say I've seen it, but I'm going to tell you that, like, yes, sue me. I haven't seen Spaceballs. Jake gave me enough crap about it before we recorded.
To help everybody, if you haven't seen Spaceballs, which I highly recommend you do, to understand 80s and 90s timeless humor, sarcasm out the wazoo, things that will carry you even in today. they Yogurt, who is Yoda, just it's just a straight joke at it, has a merch cave behind a like a fake wall, and it's full of just Spaceballs the blank, Spaceballs the action figure, Spaceballs the flamethrower, Spaceballs like, and it's just merch, and it's like you don't make money with movies, you make it on the merch.
Right.
He's got all this stuff, and I don't remember how the joke got set up, but he basically said that the next movie is going to be Spaceballs 2: The Quest for More Money. And a lot of people are saying that if it's not this title, then you're doing it wrong. Like basically, I don't know. I can't say that they won't go to it because I mean, come on, they're gonna go to it.
Of
But
course.
like, you have to name the second movie that. You almost have to. You mentioned it. You said it was gonna be Spaceballs 2: The Quest for More Money.
Yeah, the way they announced it too was with a scrolling teaser, or like it looked like the Star Wars scroll. It was only
Yeah.
that, but it was talking about how many films got a sequel, and then it got to the end. It was like however many Batman films, however many Star Wars films, and
Yeah.
and at the end it was like, but there's only been one Spaceballs until now, and it doesn't, so it doesn't
Right.
announce the name or anything, but like it was really. It was pretty funny just the scroll, so I can only imagine how the actual film is. But as I made earlier, the joke earlier about what you had said about Mel Brooks, he's 98 years old. This film doesn't come out until 2027.
Yeah. So
He
he's got another two.
his clock is ticking, and if we want to
Yep.
see beloved Yogurt, who he looks hilarious in that film, share your little tidbit about Mel Brooks as Yogurt that you told me before we were recording, because I think that is also very interesting about the character and his gold paint.
Yeah. So Yogurt is, like I said, he's straight spin off of Yoda, and he's got a robe, green robe. He's got this long flowing like white hair, like it's not quite Yoda, but kind of Yoda. But he's like spray paint gold. Really bad what it looks like. I mean, this is straight 80s with minimal budget, um, and Mel Brooks was actually like highly allergic to that paint. He could only really shoot a few scenes at a time, or not even like one scene, a few takes at a time before he had to take it off because he would break out into this like hive rash from this paint. But like you would never know. Like you didn't really notice it. Now, I mean, if you watch and you're like actually like, oh, he's itching, he's itching. But I've seen that film double digit times and I believed it, like that it didn't hurt. Like he played it off so well.
Yeah.
And so he's lucky nowadays. We don't have quite near as bad. I still hear horror stories about people having allergic reactions to things, but I think it's a whole lot better than just lathering this weird paint, like body paint on people. Like back in the 80s, and I was like, this is all we got. So
I love the idea that Mel Brooks like saunters in as his 98-year-old self will do, and they're
and
just
he's
like,
just on his knees. That's
yeah,
the funny part,
yeah,
is you can tell it's just a grown man on his knees.
they're like, Mel, we got your paint. And it's the same brand. He's like, no, please. Just luckily, like, as you said, this is more than almost 4 decades after the original. So I doubt that he will do that. But something you had brought up too before we started recording, because we always talk about like what we think, and we've kind of been doing that. But you made a great point about how what added to the luster of this original was that it felt grody. It felt like 1980s and 1990s, like grit, like that, like you know what I'm talking about when you see those older films, and like it's added to it.
Like Ghostbusters has that same look to
Yeah,
it. It's a gritty look. I know a lot more people have probably seen the original
it's
Ghostbusters.
film. I mean, that's what it is. It's
It's
shot
shot
on
on film.
film. Yeah.
Yeah. But like there's something about Spaceballs being shot like that because of the backstory. I mean, Mel Brooks went to George Lucas and he's like, "Can I make fun of it? Like, can I make fun of Star Wars?" And George Lucas gave him the green light. I think he had to jump through a hoop or two. Like he had to do one thing or another, or shoot it a certain way, or cast somebody. I don't remember what he had to do with George Lucas, but George Lucas said, "Yeah, you do that one thing and go to town.
Go
Have
for it,
fun.
brother.
Go for it." And I was like, "That's so cool!" Like that George Lucas was into it. Like it's cool that he would allow someone to make fun of like his prize,
Yeah.
right? Like that's what George Lucas is known for. is Star Wars, and so to
Yeah.
have somebody, I mean, number one, it's very awesome that Mel went to him and asked, first of all, but also for George Lucas to have that sense of humor that I think a lot of people lack, like
Yeah.
nowadays. Like I don't know how many people would be open to have a spoof film
Yeah.
made about theirs, and I'm one of those people who just tells everybody, it's like, if you have seen Star Wars, you now need to watch Spaceballs.
Yeah.
And I tell people to watch Spaceballs, and you have to watch Star Wars. At the very least, you have to watch the first ones.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not going to tell you have to do the prequels. I'm not going to tell you have to do like the newer ones, but I think the first three say a lot. And this is me like stroking George Lucas's ego, just saying it's like I like Star Wars, the first six, like the originals and the prequels. I enjoy them, but the first three being shot back then, the look, the feel, the message behind it,
Yeah.
overbearing government, um, where Luke comes from. I don't know.
Tatooine.
Yeah, where Luke comes from
Yeah.
and his hardships and his growth
Yeah.
through those films. I think George Lucas did it awesomely. Perfect story, perfect trilogy,
Yeah.
kind of deal. But Spaceballs like combines those three movies pretty much, kind of all together, and then also like combines some of the characters too.
Yeah.
And so the Schwartz is what the Force is called, which
Yeah.
is also
Oh,
super weird.
yeah.
Yeah,
The more I
yeah,
hear about George Lucas, and this will be like the last thing, and I promise it keeps up because we've gone off on a George Lucas tangent. I want to stick to the fact that Spaceballs is getting a sequel. But like
right.
the more I hear about him, the more I hear just he's just a cool guy. Like the fact that Mel Brooks was like, "Hey, can I do this?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't care." And then like there's
Yeah.
everyone has seen that video of Samuel L. Jackson trying to convince him to let him have the purple lightsaber. And what's so funny about that whole conversation is it's like he's like very calmly, the bad guys have red and the good guys have blue or green. And Samuel L. Jackson just goes, "But what about purple?" And he's like, "We'll see." And you see Samuel L. Jackson just be like light up, like, ah. And so it's like the more I hear about it, so going back to Spaceballs, it's like you can tell that like just from everything you're saying, like they're not insulting it, is what it sounds like. It sounds a lot like there was still a love for the original. It's just adding that parody because it is kind of like when you think about Star Wars, it is kind of absurd. Like, I mean, it's more than kind of absurd. It's straight up fantasy. And so it's like the fact that he can allow another, like, I mean, it's Mel Brooks that
Oh,
he can allow the guy to make fun of it and he be completely cool with it is really neat.
this makes it so much funnier that I just looked up the hoop that he had to jump through that George Lucas asked Mel Brooks not to do, and it was in fact that you cannot sell action figures. And
Oh,
so that was, I believe, he added that scene because of that.
yeah.
So, um,
You can't hurt my industry.
well, it never, and yeah, I mean, he said that it would be too close, and like the action figures would look too much alike, too similar, that you can't sell action figures for this movie.
Huh.
Which back in
Interesting.
the day,
This is a big deal. That's the entire reason you did that.
you didn't have video games, and so
Yeah.
and that's one thing that Yogurt says is the one thing that matters, in the film business is merchandise, and that's how he says it, merchandise,
Oh, that's awesome.
where the real money of the film is made.
That is awesome.
And then he like he hits the or there's like a torch on the wall or something. It's fucking the wall comes up. VHS tapes. It's like Spaceballs the movie. It's already out on VHS. In
Uh, uh,
so
perfect.
also I will spoil a little bit too. There's also another VHS of Spaceballs on the Death Star or wherever Dark Helmet is, and they use it to fast forward in time to see where the heroes are.
Oh,
It's
that's
so funny.
hilarious. Yeah, that
They
okay.
fast forward and then they see themselves, like, because the camera is where you're seeing and they're watching the screen, which is what you see, and they keep looking back at the camera and looking forward, and it's one of the best bits.
Okay, you've
When
convinced
is
me.
it? It's now. When's now? Now.
Yeah,
Then.
I will watch
He
it.
says then. It's like, when was then? Back then. So when's gonna be the future? And it's like, it's the whole bit. The whole bit. It's
I'm
future
in.
talk, right?
I'll watch it and we'll talk more about it. But with that being
So
said, I I,
every
I
scene is a
fear
bit, dude.
I fear this will be the Spaceballs podcast if I don't cut us off and move on. Because
Okay.
you have a burning passion for this, and I don't want to ruin, I don't want to tame it, but also we have a lot more to talk about. So,
do.
with that being said, Spaceballs is getting a sequel. It's going to be called hopefully whatever, and everyone's really cool. Mel Brooks and George Lucas are very cool. Now, moving on to our next topic. Shameik Moore teases he would be in Beyond the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse 3 times, then immediately walks it back. So, you might be asking, how does that happen? Well, as you can imagine, the internet does wondrous things for people. So while on the red carpet of the Tribeca Film Festival promoting his upcoming film, One Spoon of Chocolate, Moore was asked by TikToker Liam Loves Movies if there was anything he could tease about the much-anticipated finale to the Spider-Verse trilogy, Across the Spider-Verse. Moore joked, "I'll be in it," to which the interviewer replied with, "Twice?" Leading to Moore shooting back very quickly 3 times, and then he walks off. The internet went crazy went into a frenzy at this response, as one can imagine, and many were quick to speculate as to who Moore could be playing. Like, which variant of Miles Morales could he be adding to the 2 that are already in the narrative? So far, again, we've seen the 2, one from Earth 1610, which sees Miles taking on the moniker of Prowler after his uncle. That's the one at the end. Sorry to spoil, but at the end of the sequel, Beyond the Spider-Verse, we see our Miles, which is Earth 42. He stumbles in trying to get home, stumbles into Earth 1610, who is Prowler after his uncle Aaron. That's where we end. The problem is, we have some notes, very, very important notes. The problem is, Moore didn't play the other variant of Miles Morales to begin with. That was Jarrell Jerome, who voiced the Miles G. Morales. So, one, that was just weird that took off to begin with, because he doesn't play the other variant anyway. But regardless, the internet took off. Finally, after everyone was speculating, oh, who else could he be? What's the third variant that is Moore taking over for Jerome to play Miles G. Morales? What's going on? So the rumor mill goes crazy. As this is happening, Moore would go to Twitter and say, 3 movies, not 3 characters. And that's it. That's all he said. That's a tweet. 3 movies, not 3 characters, insinuating that he misunderstood the question.
3 more movies is still just as insane.
Well, see, that's the thing. He doesn't specify if he's 3 more movies. I think he was meaning I'm in 3 movies as Miles Morales, including the 2 already done, not 3 characters. But he doesn't specify that either. He doesn't say if there's going to be this next one is the beginning of another trilogy, right? So that would make 5 of them. Or is he saying, I think he was insinuating and he was meaning, I thought he asked how many movies I was in, not how many characters I was playing. That's how I read it, is he meant I'm in 3 movies with this one, not playing 3 characters.
So this is the last one.
That's what I've always heard. That's what he seems to be insinuating, and that's what everyone seems to believe.
He's a goober to begin with.
I know. And the thing is, he is so, like, he did it to himself, man.
Yeah.
Like,
well, he does it to himself regardless. I mean, he was flirting with Haley Steinfeld for.
Doug, she gets engaged to Josh Allen, and then he posts like the crying stuff, and everyone's like, Shameik, chill out. Like,
it's not that deep.
Relax, bro.
Dude, just because every other Spider-Man character dated their co-star.
Dog, the thing is for you to really be like, she had been with this guy for Josh Allen, the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, had been with him for a while before they got engaged. And I love the idea that he's sitting back after all that time, like, just wait.
In the bag.
Yeah.
It's in the bag. I'm
like
Spider-Man.
It's just like, it's so, I feel, yeah, I'm literally Spider-Man. And so I just feel like now after that's what we were going to get to, is after you called him a goober. And I think that is absolutely perfect because he's a little silly. After that, now everyone's like, Shameik, come on, man. Come on. And so now that there's this misunderstanding, supposedly the other end of this, because there is like an opposite potential, is that he is going to be 3 characters, maybe not Miles G. Morales. There might be 2 other variants of Miles Morales, because it's not called like the Spider-Verse for no reason, right? That's not the way. There could be an infinite number of Miles and Peter Parkers, right? So who's to say that he didn't accidentally slip up, but because nobody knows what he's talking about, because we've only seen 2 already, that he's throwing us another curveball.
It could also be like, for those of you who haven't seen Invincible, small spoiler, but it could be like where Miles Morales is the only, like, we already have some timeline stuff going on with the spider that wasn't supposed to be there.
Right.
But like, what if he's the only good Miles that happened? Because number one, he's not supposed to happen, right? Everybody kind of, I think that's what they're alluding to, is every other Miles either died or became Prowler.
Yeah. Like, and
So
I've that's such a fun detail too, that the spider, because that's the thing is like when you're watching the original just into the Spider-Verse, you don't really even think about like the fact that the spider was glitching like the other characters do until you like rewatch it, because
yeah,
it's the first thing you see, or it's one of the first things
yeah,
you see. So it's like, yeah, like I am very interested to see like, can he subvert the kind of the cliche Spider-Man trope of like, this has to happen. The destiny of Spider-Man is that their parental figure dies, right? So it's like,
right.
can he subvert that expectation and that destiny, if you will? Can he exist, because he's not supposed to? Can he exist outside of what destiny would have him as? And maybe that's like, that's obviously why he's seeing Miles G. Morales, is because it's like, this is what you were supposed to be, and you're
Yeah,
not. So I am, and there could be infinite ways. Exactly that. Like, to your point, it's like maybe a way they prove that is like he goes to two different other dimensions. Shameik Moore plays both of them, and they're both also Prowler,
yeah.
which would be, that'd be a,
I don't know.
that'd
It's
screw with
always
your
a
head a little bit.
thought, right?
Well, imagine like
Always
the
a thought.
character arc. Like, he's trying to save his dad from Spot. Like the dude's gonna go kill whoever, and he's like running around, like going from dimension to dimension, and he keeps running into himself, and it's different versions, and like the next one's worse than the next, and it's like that's character development. That'd be a mess with your head. Very interesting.
Right. I recently watched the animated Spider-Man. Like
Dude, they're
or
so
like the
good.
Spider-Verse. Like I recently watched it, and so and I remember like sitting on the couch like, and that was it. It was the G Morales reveal, and it
Yeah.
was just kind of like, and then it ends, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
like what happened?
Well,
Like that felt like there was so much more. It felt like a part one.
they took 5 years, I think, to make the sequel, or 6 years or something, and then they were like, we're not gonna wait as long, and then the Hollywood strikes, the writer strikes hit.
Uh,
And so that's why it's pushed back. Right now we know it's going to be released in, I think, 2027. So, and I say that because it's been pushed back however many times already, so no one really knows. But yeah, I'm still fascinated by this. I think I was wrong before. I think I have it written down correctly. It's Into, Across, and then Beyond. So he was talking about Beyond. The sequel is Across. So what we've seen, what we've been talking about, you've already seen in Across the Spider-Verse. Not him talking about he'll be in Across 3 times. He'll be in Beyond 3 times. So
so
anyway,
if you're able to find Ryan's timeline there.
yeah, it goes Into, Across, and then now the third is going to be Beyond, like I had it originally written.
One more. And it makes me wonder, all these movies coming out in 2027, is there going to be a movie to watch in 2026? I don't know, man. I got a lot of release
I
dates in
don't know.
27, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of 26. All right.
Anyway, I mean, it's even a slow year for Marvel next year, so.
Well, that's on purpose. And they better get
Okay.
it right.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
they said quantity is not better than quality, and so they flipped the script, and that's why they're
of
focusing.
course.
So the next one that comes out, if it flops,
This is supposed to be a reboot anyway. We can't go off on this tangent. Moving
Okay.
on to the third and final topic in this segment before we go to break. For the first time ever, Hollywood elites sue AI firm over copyright infringement. We have never seen this happen before, not in Hollywood, and here we are. So Disney and Universal, of course it's Disney. Of course. They are suing AI firm Midjourney for copyright infringement in regards to the use of their most recognizable IPs such as Shrek, Homer Simpson, and Darth Vader. And I think there might be more in there, but the three listed in the source we're quoting from, which is NPR, that's the three they really harped on. The lawsuit was filed this past Wednesday, June 11th, in a Los Angeles court and includes 110 pages, which I'm nowhere near a legal professional. I don't know. I'm not a legal nut. That seems like an excessive amount of pages. That seems like a lot. A legal document's usually 110 pages.
I would say that's in.
You say that's it?
average.
That's in the average
I
range?
feel like that's average, if not
That just feels like a lot.
short. I feel
Anyway.
like that's short.
All of our paralegal viewers are like, like,
Nothing.
yeah,
Nothing.
I do that in my sleep. Anyway, the lawsuit argues that the firm stole, quote, countless copyrighted works to train its AI to better depict these characters in its generated images. Disney and Universal accused Midjourney of, quote, selling an artificial intelligence image generating service that functions as a virtual vending machine, generating endless unauthorized copies of Disney's and Universal's copyrighted works. While the first lawsuit of its kind in the realm of Hollywood or cinema, it is far from the first in the broader media landscape. The New York Times has sued OpenAI and Microsoft. Sony has sued AI song generators Suno and Udio, which were two startups. And Getty Images sued Stability AI. So we've seen this before, but this is the first time in Hollywood that we're seeing this. Again, of course, it's Disney because Disney has no fun ever. But and also side tangent, for those of our viewers watching on YouTube or Spotify, the image that we pulled and that everyone's using for this reference, it's my favorite because whenever it shows the two Homer Simpsons that like are copyrighted, it's just a screenshot of Disney Plus. Like you could see the play button and everything. It's like you guys couldn't just get like actual images. You had a journalist go in to Disney Plus and screenshot the interface and everything. I think that's so funny. Anyway, they'd use that to prove the point that what Midjourney was doing with their OpenAI and what the actual copyrighted character looks like. But anyway, the point is, Jake, like, what do we think? It seems to me when I read it, and this is just my interpretation, that they are suing the fact that they stole essentially the material to train the AI, not so much that the AI is popping out, but like one led to the other. But that's what they seem to be more angry about.
Chicken and egg.
Yeah,
here.
right.
They stole the chicken to make the egg.
Yeah,
that's why they're suing. So, if that is what happened, they stole countless copyrighted works to train an AI engine. So, I don't know the legality of training an AI with images it can actually access on the internet anyway. But like maybe I don't know. I don't know how training an AI works. I'm not an expert on training AI, and I don't understand using an image to train it. I don't get how that might be copyright, but I'm not a copyright expert either.
See, that was my question. Was like I feel like a lot of AI learns on the fly through, and this is gonna sound so ignorant, but like it Googles when you ask it to do something, it will pull reference just from the greater internet landscape, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like if this is something they can definitively prove, which I know like tech companies like this, they have to feed their AI, they have to train their AI to get better results, right? Yeah. So if they can prove this, I think that they have legal footing, right? Unlike any other like lawsuit we've seen. But if it's like if Midjourney can prove that like no, actually the software learned from communicating with its users and it just had a connection to the web and it was pulling its own source material, what are you going to do? Because you can't put a block on what these things, like that's just not possible. Right? Like, tell me if I'm speaking out of turn.
I have no idea. I wish I knew more about any of these topics other than like, I know that like I can put an image into ChatGPT and like use it. It'll scan it. It will like tell me what's in the image. It will actually make, like if I told it, here's Homer Simpson and Kick Buttowski, like, and now
what a reference! What a callback!
And now make them like, I don't know, do something cool, like do kick flips or whatever, and it will make that using the reference images. Like if I tell it, it's like you have to use this actor and this actor with this backdrop, make a movie poster.
Yeah,
it'll work. It'll do that, and it'll use the source material. So does that mean it's copyrighted when the user pulls images online and gives it to the AI that then turns something out? Because I have met paywalls, or not paywalls, but like I have hit a wall with ChatGPT where it's like I can't make somebody with that likeness. Like I can't make LeBron James. Like that's just not, I can't do that. I can't recreate people of famous, and like I assume it can't also do people if you're, I don't know how that works. There are constraints, but we've talked about how AI moves so fast that these constraints get left off because they want to be first to market, and constraining an AI takes a long time.
Here's the flip side of that. So say Midjourney can prove that it was actually the users feeding it these copyrighted materials and that the AI was just learning. What might happen as a fallout of this is Midjourney and Open, they might have to, or Chat even, they might have to like keep record of who uploads what. And that's a part of copyright now. Is like, oh, like AI might say, hey, that's a copyrighted image. And now, and that, because like the thing is can you sue Midjourney for what its users are doing? No.
I think the key portion of this that I don't have, which they do link. Sorry, guys at home, I have a full-time job and did not have the chance to read the 110-page lawsuit, but they might be talking about just the training portion before it went to market.
Yeah. I mean,
And depending on what training was involved and how they might have, first of all, you have to prove that they used copyright images.
yeah.
That how did they use them and why does it matter if they did? Because I can use a copyright image and show you guys on this podcast and it not be a problem because we're talking about it.
Yeah. Well, that's fair use. But I wonder if, because the thing about fair use is it has to be educational, it has to be critiquing, or it has to be entertainment. Maybe not entertainment, but there has to be like a legitimate, like,
you're able to change it to an extent that makes it art.
well, you also get into the realm of parody because it's legal to parody things, and so
yeah. So what's the use? Like what are you suing? Are you suing because I use the image, or are you suing because of what came out?
I think that first one is the only way they have footing, is because if they can prove that they stole that imagery to feed to their AI to give people, I think that they have footing to say they stole my stuff and they're not using it. Because now all of a sudden anybody can have a really realistic looking Homer Simpson to put in whatever they want. That I get, but if that's what I'm saying,
At
is
that
like,
point is copyright though.
how do you prove? What does Disney and Universal have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Midjourney physically put that into their software? That is where I'm like, okay, like I need to see what you're going on for evidence here, because that seems like a stretch. But if not so much the grounds they're standing on, but the evidence to prove that, that's where I'm confused, or not even confused. That's where I'm like, oh, can you prove that? This is one of the more important. I feels like we talk about AI every week, and the thing is, there's always something new about AI in film every week. So like, we're just going to keep talking about it until it either is a thing or it's not going to go away, but the opposite. This might be one of the more important lawsuits in Hollywood for this reason. We talked about how Hollywood is making people put in how much AI assisted them, like they have to disclose if they used AI at all.
No.
Now we're seeing, can these firms use copyrighted material for their customers, and allow their softwares to duplicate copyrighted material?
I think this is all of the above. I'm only on page 5 here, and they're talking about everything we're talking about here. Like number 9 is Midjourney also copies and uses plaintiffs' copyrighted characters to market and promote its image service, encouraging even more infringement and falsely implying plaintiffs' endorsement. And then number 10 is Midjourney could easily stop its theft and exploitation, as well as control what copyrighted content it selects, copies, and includes in the image service, as well as it has the means to implement protection measures to prevent the ongoing copying, public display, and distribution of the works. And then above, it's just pictures of Darth Vader, pictures of the Minions, picture of Shrek, How to Train Your Dragon, Wall-E.
I mean, that is a point that is beyond what we've talked about. Using the marketing for that to try to, because that's straight up theft at that point. It's like, oh yeah, we'll use Homer Simpson on an ad that we shoot out. And that does make it seem like Disney approves it if they didn't. So that is a completely whole different ballgame.
Right. So this is that among, I mean, I think they're going after the whole shebang, which is, if you're Disney, yes, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
The whole thing from
You'd have to at that
training
point.
to uploading to the export of AI file and then use of that AI file. They are not suing the people, they are suing the means to get that. And so we could very well see changes in all of the AIs because of this.
Yeah.
And image uploading and using it as a tool in that sense is churning out content that resembles copyrighted material.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that's a great stopping point for this segment. So we're going to go ahead and go to our last break of the show, going into segment 3. So Coming up after the break, we have a Disney Pixar's new film announced, Incredibles 3 gets greenlit at Disney, and trailers from this past week. Hello, everybody, and welcome to segment 3 of Beyond the Screen. If you made it this far, you're about 55 minutes to an hour in. We just want to say thank you so much. As always, I feel like we're always just in our fields talking about how much we appreciate you being here, but we couldn't go an episode without thanking you for making it this far if you have. As always, I will always get on the soapbox and say to start our last segment before we let you go is it's crazy that you sit here and allow us to do this. It doesn't matter how many of you there are or how many of you there will be. We love doing this. We're just two dudes who went to college together, love to chit chat. We love each other. At least Jake might never admit it, but I will. And so the fact that we can be here and just chit chat about something we're super passionate about and something that we've made our careers is something that is not lost to us. It's very fortunate. So thank you. As always, like, subscribe, do the whole nine. And just, again, thank you so much for being here.
And tell your mother.
Tell your mom. Your mom would love us. But now at that point.
Now we're two dudes and an awesome girl behind the screen as well.
We do have a special thing. Emily is down there. I can't quite see her because I put my laptop away. That's how much trust. That's what I'm saying. Before we started, I was like, Emily, I'm putting my laptop away. Like it's your show. So she's done fantastic. Like this has been an absolutely smooth as butter broadcast. So comment down below. One, I meant to say this before the last segment ended. Comment if you've seen Kick Buttowski, if you're from that generation like us, because that was a great reference there, Jake. But two, tell Emily.
First thing that came to my head.
Tell Emily, that's crazy, actually. Tell Emily how great she's been doing, because genuinely, I've been very, the fact that I don't have to worry about what's going on across the screen, I can just know it's going to be there. It's a godsend. So, yes, we have expanded it, and I'm sure Emily feels the same heartfelt. And if she ever wanted to hop in when she's comfortable, she could easily join our conversation. We would love to have her. With that, you also at home can join our conversation by leaving comments in the wherever. I'm shameless plug, I know, but I would love to get different opinions. And
he takes one step off the soapbox and he wait.
Yeah, I gotta go back. Okay, anyway, all right, no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, we'll move on. So to start off our final segment, Disney Pixar announces new film from the creators of Luca called Gatto. So Gatto.
Like it's Spanish for cat or Italian for
this
cat.
Isn't. I would say this is definitely not Spanish.
Well, no, but like
Gatto,
Italian,
not Gatto.
French, and Spanish, like they all have that root to Latin.
Gatto.
I don't know if it's Latin, but yeah, Gatto.
Gatto.
Spanish for cat. And I could be saying that wrong too. I'm not going to claim that I know how to speak Spanish.
Jake, I am so white. I am so Irish. You don't understand. Anyway, Gatto. Gatto. At the recent Annecy Animation Film Festival in France, Disney Pixar shocked the attending audiences by showing an exclusive look at the company's next project following the release of upcoming flick Elio. Gatto, directed by Luca director Enrico Casarosa, features a black cat named Nero, who, after taking inventory of his life, begins to wonder if he has lived properly. After getting himself into debt with a local kitten-shaped mob boss, Nero finds himself in an unexpected relationship after he is begrudgingly adopted by a street artist named Maya. Set to the backdrop of Venice, Italy, which is Casarosa's home country, the company revealed a distinct, vibrantly colored 2D art style that almost looks hand-painted, all very much to the crowd's excitement. The film is set to release, if you could guess, in the year of our Lord 2027. So, Jake, what do we think about the next project?
I look forward to seeing another hand-painted film. Do you know the last one that Disney came out?
Don't know, because Pixar has gone heavily. I mean, they've always been the CGI. I don't know. It's definitely a hand-painted style, but it might still be CGI. But it's very distinct, as you guys saw at home, as it flashed across the screen. If you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, like it is very distinct. It's very colorful. Like it's very vibrant, which is something that made Luca, which is an Oscar-winning film. That's what made Luca so distinct, and it's almost a cult classic at this point. People love Luca, and it had a lot of the same. And now it is very much that Pixar style, that kind of like that bubbly CGI look, almost like. Would you describe like Pixar, like their normal CGI they've had about the last decade. That's like it's almost like Play-Doh look. It's like it
Yeah.
looks, you know what I mean? Like that was what Luca was, but it was very vibrant in the Italian countryside. This one looks very exactly like it's described in the article that we read from Variety, and the way you described it, it is very hand painted esque. Um, I don't know. I'm very excited for it. Something that is interesting about this whole announcement. So it was announced from Pixar CCO, Chief Creative Officer Peter Docter. And the idea behind this announcement was a commitment to the Annecy Film Festival, which is the biggest film festival in animation in the world throughout the year, right? So a commitment to that and to the theatrical release. That those are two separate things they're hoping to accomplish, because Pixar, after COVID, Luca was a Disney Plus, like immediate straight to streaming. They're going back to, as we see with Elio, I think this was like a year and a half ago now that they announced they were going back to a worldwide distribution in theaters. This is a commitment to not only the Annecy Film Festival, but to continue to say, hey, we're going to a worldwide broadcast in terms of theaters. So big deal, like shocking. The audience, I mean, this was not expected. This was a whole thing to talk about Pixar, talk about Elio, and they released the whole first look at Gatto. So very intrigued. I love the idea of a cat mob boss. I love the idea of this underground of just cats. Like, you know, when you're like running around, you see a cat duck in a sewer. I love the idea that there's a whole society of kitten down there, and it's just like
So
just cats.
the last feature animated film that was hand painted was a 2011 Winnie the Pooh movie.
Oh, that's such a good one.
And then there are others if we want to talk about like not, I guess, feature film. So The Boy and the Heron through Studio Ghibli,
Oh, yeah.
that one was hand painted, which they always are.
Yeah.
And then there was two others. So Loving Vincent was 2017. It was about, I think, Vincent Van Gogh's like life, and it was
Oh.
every frame was painted with oil. It
Was
was
it
the
in his
first
art
ever.
style?
Yes.
Whoa, that's sick.
Yeah. So and then the peasants. I'm going to say peasants. The peasants in 2023 was the most recent fully hand painted film, but I think it's a French film.
Hmm.
Maybe, I think. But so they're still happening. It's just they're not feature films because I would assume time and money, and
Yeah.
those guys don't want to drop that.
Well, yeah, I
So
mean, yeah, I mean, it's a whole different type of money, because you talk about, when we say it's money, it's usually like people on sets, or it's going to take too long for a rendering. But
right,
this is like scene by scene, shot by shot, traditional art. And I hope, I know I read there was a little bit of CGI in this. I hope it is mostly hand drawn, because that art style would be so distinct, and it would be something I don't think Pixar has ever, like you just read the most recent hand drawn. That would be a step in a direction for Pixar I would not be prepared for, wasn't expecting, but it would be so
right.
lovely.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if it works out. I think it will. I think it'll be a pretty good movie. I hope it's not like Flow.
Oh yeah. Well, one guy with Blender, dude. Give it some credit.
Well, I do. I'll give it credit that it's amazing for the work that went into it.
Yeah.
It's just, man, I got tired of, like, I got sleepy, dude. It's one of those films with nobody talking. It's just cat like running from the flood. I know it was captivating for a
Yeah.
little bit, but
I wonder
and
if
then
sorry, go ahead.
it made the girlfriend cry several times too, and she didn't like the ending as much as she liked Wild Robot. But I'm calling back to some way longer ago episodes
You will
before.
never let that be lived down, because you really love the wild robot.
I thought it was a very good, very like an example, a very good example of what I think a modern kids film is, like not what we grew up with. Like when I say modern, like our modern was How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
When that, like that masterpiece, I would call Wild Robot the 2020s one of the
Oh,
masterpieces
interesting.
of that, of like if we were the 2010s, like the 2020s, I think Wild Robot's up there.
Give it 15 years and we'll see a live action remake from Universal probably. But
Great.
to get it
With a
back
real robot.
with a real robot, yeah, at that point. But to get it back to Gatto, and something that I really want to specify about this one is that, like, you talk about it not wanting to be like Flow, because to be honest, it kind of does feel like it, like down to like the fact that like water, they're in Venice, which is notoriously like a borderline aquatic city, a black cat, like I completely get. And the thing is that like I know the main character in Flow is just called Cat. This is a cat named Nero. He's just called Black. That's just his name. Like they just like, so it's like it very similar, and I can completely get why. But the thing is, or why you draw that comparison. However, the fact that Maya, his like against his will adoptive mother, like kind of like takes him in and like whatever. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of like we're gonna have talking animals like to each other anyway, and I think there's gonna be a lot more narrative, as Pixar films usually are, but. So I don't think you have as much to worry about with that, but I look forward to this heavily because it just I'm a sucker for good. Like when Puss in Boots, the last Puss in Boots came out, I was in a seat so fast because it's just like that art style is so just mwah, that I was like I have to be there, I have to see this. So this is one that is like gives me the same like vibes as that, where it's like ooh, like this looks unique, I'm there. And I think that's a good point to stop on Gatto and to go ahead and move on to the next. We're staying in the world of Pixar, Jake. Animation heavy episode. The Incredibles 3 officially greenlit at Disney with new director, but Brad Bird is still attached to write. So the world is not ending. Hold on. Stick around. Brad Bird is still there. It just will not be directed by him. So Peter Sohn, director of The Good Dinosaur and Elemental, will helm the third installment into the Super Family's adventure. While many are skeptical, as I alluded to from the jump of this story, Bird and Pixar Chief Creative Officer Peter Docter, again, both chose Sohn personally, as Sohn and Bird in particular have a long-standing work relationship that saw Bird produce all of Sohn's aforementioned films. So The Good Dinosaur and Elemental both had a producing Brad Bird on board. So the main reasons for Bird stepping back as director is not just due to the fact that he trusts this man. He doesn't necessarily want another person kind of helming this thing. It's not a creative difference. He just has a lot of time constraints in the next few years. Bird is currently at work with Skydance to produce an animated sci-fi noir titled Ray Gunn, in which the story follows the last human detective in a futuristic Earth populated by humans and aliens alike. Lead Raymond Gunn, hence the name,
awesome.
hence the title, is hired to investigate pop star Venus Envy to see if she is cheating, only for Gunn to discover a plot to frame Envy for the murder of her body double. And that is the story. I pulled that straight from source.
So cool.
Yeah. This is a project Ray Gunn has been in the works for almost 30 years with Bird. This has been a long-standing project for Bird, and so no wonder he's not going to take a step back, right? No wonder he's not, like, it has to be great, and it has to be something really important for him to not go do Incredibles 3. Right. And so you see this, it does sound awesome. And so that's another one I'll be in theaters for. So despite that, he is not coming back for Incredibles 3. And if anything, he's still gonna write. Like, it's still gonna be his story. He helped usher in the first two, and he's handing it off to a guy that he trusts. Right. Elemental was okay. The Good Dinosaur was just kind of weird. I didn't really like it. It had a good story, but it wasn't my favorite of Pixar's. But you could see the vision with Peter Sohn. And I feel like if Bird trusts him that much to give him his script and say, do it, I'm all for it, because Brad Bird is also very high in the Disney Pixar totem pole. Like, he is a big figure there. So the fact that both CCO, Doctor, and Brad Bird agree, I think that this is going to be fine. So while, again, we're talking about Brad Bird's schedule, his busy schedule, we're talking about Ray Gunn, that's not the only film he's currently working on. He's also working with Disney on a film titled 1906, covering the events of the great earthquake that hit San Francisco in the year of the film's title. So, and that's a genuine thing that happened. It destroyed many different portions of the city. He's been working on that since 2008.
Was there a fire?
No, there was an earthquake. It
No.
was an earthquake. It completely. Have you never heard of the Great Earthquake?
I've heard of the Great Fire in San Francisco.
Well, there was one. I think you're talking about Chicago, because that one had a great fire.
They all.
Yeah, same thing.
London had one too, apparently.
Oh, sorry, London. No, but there was this big earthquake in 1906, hence the title 1906. And Brad Bird, the article so I pulled both of these from Empire Online. Okay, the Empire. When they were talking about 1906, the article they referenced to give you more information was from 2008, when Brad Bird was first announced as director. So this has been something he's been working on. That was almost 20 years old. Ray Gunn is almost 30 years old in terms of production. This man said, I'm not doing Incredibles 3. Here you go, Peter Son, do your thing. I'm doing these two. And so I am very intrigued by all of these films. I am very intrigued. Obviously, growing up with The Incredibles, you cannot be anything but romantic for the thought of a third one to finish out that family's tenure or that story or potentially lead into a fourth. And I think Ray Gun is the coolest concept I've heard in a long time.
Right.
So anyway, give me your thoughts, please, Jake. I've rambled enough about Pixar.
No, I don't know. Like, obviously, Incredibles 2 is not going to be as great as the first one. That I would also say that that's a masterpiece of our growing up generation. And I don't think Incredibles 2 meets the mark for the 2020 generation.
I thought it was good.
I don't think it holds the same weight. And so 3 is just kind of like I think we get into the realm of cash grabby again.
Oh, really?
I mean, like, what could 3 possibly tell?
See, Brad Bird writing it gives me hope. But the thing is that between 1 and 2, we never saw the children grow.
Right.
I would love the idea of an old Bob and an old Susan. Is that her? I can't remember his wife's name. I'm blanking on the top of my head.
Helen Parr.
Helen, thank you. Helen and Bob being old and about ready to retire. Frozone, about ready to retire. Speaking of which, everyone's been calling for a Frozone spinoff for a long time.
They want that so bad.
I would love to see. I would love
Samuel
again,
be around forever.
As you like to say for Disney every episode, are they allergic to money? Like, do they not want to make money? Like, make a Frozone spinoff while Samuel L. Jackson is still around. Incredibles 3.
So sell.
I know. Like, the best part of Incredibles 2 was Frozone. Like, when he sacrifices himself for the kids, spoilers, sorry, I teared up in my seat because it's just like, that's Frozone. Like, you love Frozone. And it's just like, it was sad to see him get turned. And so, like, the idea of him...
That's like all audiences.
Yeah.
Everybody would be there.
Yeah. Oh, I know I'd be. And so it's like, give me Frozone the spinoff, but also back to Incredibles 3. Make it where Dash and Violet are adults. Dash is like around the age, or Jack, sorry, Jack, sorry. Jack is around the age of what like Violet and them are. Like he's kind of going into what they're going through the first 2 movies. So you have like, oh my gosh. Like that would sell for me because that's like, okay, what do you do? It's like, how are Bob and Helen going to help their kids? This is a coming of age story that we've been preparing for 20 something years now. Like I would, if they do that, I would be there for it. If it's another, like the kids haven't grown and it's the same, I could understand. I thought Incredibles 2 was as good as it could have been. Cause like, again, you can't you can't be as good as the first one. So I thought I love the idea of going with the first one was about Bob. The second one was Helen's story. Now it's the kids.
Right.
I would love to see that. I'm here for that. That's still a big if though.
Big if. We'll see. I trust Bird, but yeah, the different director's gonna be right. Like,
yeah,
we'll see. All we can say is, let me see the trailer. I'll have a better opinion when I see a trailer.
Yeah, that's it though. That is everybody though. It's like, let me see the trailer first because So, any other thoughts on The Incredibles 3 potential or any of the other films from Brad Bird before we move on?
Dude, I want Ray Gunn so bad. I don't even care about Incredibles 3. You told me that, and I'm like, dude, that sounds awesome. That sounds so cool.
Bro did not hear about it before this moment, but did not know he needed it until this moment.
Is it animated? Is it live action?
Yeah, it's going to be an animation. In fact, 1906 is the only film Brad Bird's attached to ever that will not be animation.
Wow.
From what I was reading from the 2008 Empire story.
Okay.
So...
kind of wish it was live action. Ray Gunn.
You know what? I feel like if it were live action, it would just be like Anakin and Obi-Wan on Coruscant. Like I feel like that's what it would look like. So I love the idea of the animation.
I'm not opposed to a Star Wars detective series.
We've been asking for something not so Star Wars-y, like a horror or like an investigative type of story for Star Wars for so long. Money.
They're allergic to it, bro. I swear.
Yeah. And I think with that, we have exhausted our opportunities. So, Jake, moving on here. we're going to talk about our trailers. We always tease the latest trailers that came out this past week, and I'm very excited to talk about our host of different sneak peeks we have here. So, Jake.
All over the place.
Oh, yes. So,
Obviously.
we have, first off, Superman released a teaser this past week, which I don't think is in this one. I don't think we threw that one in there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jake. Is it in there?
Remember.
Yeah.
Well, I should have edited.
No, it's a new teaser highlighting potential. Like, it comes out in a couple weeks, so that one, if it's not on there, that's not that big of a deal. We do have the teaser for Eddington, which very, very interesting. So let's see if we can get a sneak peek of that one. Ooh,
Smacks him.
Yeah.
Smacks. He's Joaquin Phoenix and Pedro Pascal. I believe one's the sheriff, which I think Joaquin is the sheriff, and then Pedro is the current mayor.
Yes.
And it's 2020 during COVID, and this town's just got a lot of drama with it. And a lot of people don't like Pedro. A lot of people don't like Joaquin. And it's just kind of like a battling for like mayorship of the town. And as you saw, eventually, I think Joaquin gets an M60 and just starts spraying outside on the streets of Eddington.
I know,
So
like,
I don't know what it could possibly be about.
it's from Ari Aster. So, like, he's we've always seen good things from him, right? So, like, we know Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, which Pedro Pascal is in everything now. I did not realize, like, he's now, like, anyway. But it's going to be interesting because it's like, just think back to, like, mid-2020 after COVID, and, like, everyone's, like, getting restless. And so you have, like, should we mask? Should we not? And people are, like, going out and, like, that whole bickering. That's what's happening. That is where you're at in this small town, at least from what I ascertained from all of what I've seen from the trailer. So very interesting. Joaquin Phoenix in many of the trailers is out there with his phone, like, this is happening, like, you know, like, whatever. And so I'm very intrigued to where this could go, because Ari Aster's usually a horror guy. So this does not seem that. This seems a lot more dramatic. So I'm very intrigued to see where this goes. We also have a sneak peek at the trailer for The Pickup.
Pull over and you won't get hurt. We're gonna die. Calm down. Remember your training.
Put your hands up! I took a 15-hour online course. What training?
It looks just like Pete Davidson and Eddie Murphy. That's
all it needs to be.
That's all. Yeah,
But
yeah.
The what you don't get to see there is the other actress in it. I think she's also going to be in Spaceballs too.
Is it Keke Palmer?
I think so.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm going to spoil it for you because it's in the trailer and you should go watch it. But she is, I believe, the main antagonist and the love interest of Pete Davidson.
Okay.
So it's all kinds of messed up and weird. Go watch the trailer. It's one of those comedies. It's got Eddie Murphy in it. It's funny.
What seems
Pete Davidson is going to be great.
Yeah, what seems interesting to me is that Eddie Murphy seems to be a little bit more serious than he normally. Like, he's not like yes, he's obviously Eddie Murphy, so he's going to be funny. But it's like Pete Davidson, just Pete Davidson, right?
Right.
But also then there's Eddie Murphy, who's usually in Pete Davidson's shoes.
Yeah, he's grown up. He's got to be the old man like guide now.
Yeah,
like he's talking about retiring or pivoting jobs, and this is his last one, and it's his like anniversary for his wife or something like wedding anniversary, and he's like, my gift to her is I'm quitting this job because I don't know, whatever it could be. And Pete Davidson in the same scene, but wasn't cut that way. It was it's like, you're changing career, you're pivoting or whatever, like this late in the game. And he's like, how old do you think I am? And it's like, well, you look 40, but you could be 90.
Yeah.
So,
I just thought that was a really interesting dynamic. Like, when I watched the trailer, it was like, oh, Eddie Murphy, like, silly. But like, he's not silly, you know? Like, so anyway, the next one, what we have a teaser for is In Your Dreams from Netflix.
The Legend of the Sandman, the Giver of Dreams. It's magic! I can see your crack, Houdini.
So, what do we think about In Your Dreams?
from what I saw with the trailer is it's a dream world that they somehow infiltrate or remember or can control their bodies in, and they have to, for some reason, reach the Sandman or else, I believe. And it's like it reminds me of an Inside Out type film, where they meet like what's the stuffed animal
Bing
guy that
bong, or is that who you're talking about?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that guy. But they meet a character like that. I
Oh,
don't remember his name, but
don't
he's like a
traumatize me
giraffe.
like that, dude. If I can't get another Bing bong,
Well, I
take her
think
to the
you
moon
might
for
get
me.
another. Yeah, you might get another Bing Bong, but this time it's the little boy's lost stuffed animal that feeds him bologna. It's very odd,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
brother sister story. So it's going to be a heartfelt thing where they go through some growth there. But I don't know the reason why they're here, why they're stuck, or why they need to see the Sandman.
I think I have an answer because I watched the trailer and I had the same questions, and so I looked up the IMDb synopsis. So
Okay.
Stevie and her little brother Elliot journey into the wildly absurd landscape of their own dreams to ask the Sandman to grant them the perfect family. And so not only do they have the potential Bing Bong, right? That's a big one, but also, and more importantly, it reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy. Or Guardians of the Galaxy. Rise of the Guardians, sorry. Rise of the Guardians.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
No. Rise of the Guardians.
Whereas-
I misspoke. I apologize. Rise of the Guardians, which you guys know I
where his
love.
father's a planet.
Which you guys know, which you guys know I love. If you guys have watched this back at Christmas, we did one of our big things for, it wasn't even a special. It's just how we ended the episode was like, what are your top 5 most underrated? And Rise of the Guardians was my number 1 because I think that is, while it includes a lot more than Christmas, it's beautiful. Okay. And so the art style of this, and I guess it's just the Sandman in general and seeing like the golden sand castle or whatever on the trailers or in the poster. It makes me think of that. So it makes me think of like if Inside Out is a great pull, if Inside Out met Rise of the Guardians. That's like what that the art style looks a lot like Rise of the Guardians. It's just an up to date. So I
was actually hoping for a Sandman spinoff. I was rooting for you when I first saw it. I was like, no way, no way, no way. That's coming back up.
I go insane. My guy, now the thing is, I don't know how you make him the lead because he doesn't speak. He's mute. But also, like, if I don't care, like
you treat him like you did Jack Frost, and you give him a backstory.
Yes, like
he becomes Sandman.
Let him speak before he's Sandman, because that's like the whole point. That's off topic. But
anyway, that's what I thought it was gonna be, and I was like super like excited for Ryan. I was like, yeah, Sandman movie, yeah. And then it just turned out to not be that.
Dude, if you haven't seen, I'll finish off Rise of the Guardians. Go watch that movie because it is so good. But also,
after you watch Spaceballs,
you got homework. You got 2 of them, including me. I have to watch one of those movies. But are there any other thoughts about In Your Dreams before we move on? Because like I just talked about what it looks like, and you talked about like kind of what you saw in the questions you had. But any idea?
That's about it. Go watch the trailer if you guys like. But I think it's like one of those LEO level movies.
Yeah. And lastly, we have the new teaser for Alien Earth.
Feels good, doesn't it? Being more than human. But there's a price. Do you know what it is?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is different from the first trailer that we've shown on here.
And it's the next one. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we've shown another trailer on here when it first dropped. This is another teaser, but now it's kind of talking like they've spliced their DNA with Alien.
Why would you do that?
Right. Which, I mean, I from what I know, I don't care for the Alien. Like, it's a level of horror movie that I don't watch. So, but from what I do know is I thought the face huggers like laid eggs in you, and then whatever burst out of your chest was part of you as well. Like it was, you were the host, but also you were, no, like you did that with the animal. Like it would
you die.
Find each other.
Wait, no,
well, yeah, you die, but the alien becomes, there's a portion of you in it. Like that is, I'm pretty sure.
Maybe. I don't know that last part. You're right about it coming out of your chest. John Hurt was the original guy, the first guy that ever jumped out of his chest, who also played the War Doctor in Doctor Who. Doctor Who plug, I'm sorry. Back to you, Jake.
So, like when Predator like had one and it burst out of his chest.
Oh,
it combined
yeah.
their DNA, and then there was an alien predator hybrid, and then that happens.
But that
I mean,
got...
yes, you don't notice it, but like when an alien is bipedal, it likely means they spawn from a human.
Which is interesting. Well, the Alien versus Predator franchise is null and void. Like that is not canon. So like I remember that now that you're saying that, but like that's a good point. Is that you've made a good point. I'm intrigued.
And I thought that like when it got a hold of an animal, it was more quadruped and had acted differently.
Yeah.
But this is me going off of just stuff I've seen, social media, and deep dives of just like the different aliens, the variants of them, the queens and whatnot. And I thought that was the case with when the face hugger got you, the face hugger died, and then you died when it popped out of your chest.
Yes.
And I thought it was a not a symbiosis, but it's
no,
like a
but you're right.
thing.
You
And
know
it used you in its genome.
I do remember, like, again, I remember when it popped out as the Predator's chest, like it had that, and that is a great point. I just never thought about it because when they killed the franchise, the Alien vs. Predator franchise, and that was now no longer canon.
All right.
Like I just never thought about it being something that was actually still canon.
Well, I don't know.
Great point, though.
This could be another way to make it canon.
Yeah.
I guess is where they're splicing DNA now.
I'm intrigued. This is like they're on their like Jurassic Park level stuff now. Like they're they're like, what if we? No, don't do that. How about don't? And so
yeah,
I'm for one very excited about it. But yeah, that, ladies and gentlemen, those are the trailers that we have for you. The hype up for this that happened this last week. We'll have more for you next week. So, lastly, as always, there's always more news than we know what to do with. And so we have our final segment, which is what you should know before you go, which is I'm going to quickly read through 4 or 5. Right now, this week, it's 4 different news topics that we didn't think we needed enough or a lot of time to discuss. We'll pick 1 or 2 that we think is very interesting and quickly give our little tidbit. And then we're going to let you go because we're at an hour and a half. This is the shortest episode we've had in a long time, and we want to keep it that way. So, starting off, John Wick director Chad Stahelski is still trying to figure out a way to make John Wick 5 happen. That's all I'll say about that. Moving on, Robert Eggers is rumored to be developing a Christmas Carol adaptation with Willem Dafoe in mind to be Ebenezer Scrooge. James Gunn has confirmed the development of a Wonder Woman film at DC Studios, and A Violent Night 2 gets a Christmas 2026 release with David Arbor set to return. So, a lot of very interesting things that we're shooting at you real quick. Jake, what in particular intrigues you the most?
I've seen the memes about Willem Dafoe as Ebenezer Scrooge in Christmas Carol, and it's like peak cinema. It's Scorsese sitting in his chair with peak cinema doing his hands like this. It's like, why are people just now putting Willem Dafoe in stuff? Because that guy can act, and he should have been Ebenezer 10 years ago.
Right. Like, this is going to be, like, when this was announced, a buddy of mine who works at a local newspaper in the town north of me, he texted it to me like 5 minutes after I saw it. And this is how, like, the fact that we're at a place where Robert Eggers news is it like dominates headlines when he does anything, right? So that broke. I saw it. 5 minutes later, my news reporter friend was like, I will be in an I seat. That's all and he just said, he said first it was Dafoe as Scrooge, I will be in a seat. And I'm like, whoa, like that's big. Cause like I have random people texting me that. Like, and this guy is not like a big film guy. Like, he loves film, but he's not like us. Like, he's not like going out of his way to find this stuff. So the fact that I'm with you on that, something else that I find interesting is I said I wasn't going to say anything else about it, and that my only thing was going to be my grunt, but I'm going to have to say it. It's over.
Yeah.
Let John Wick go.
When you said that a few episodes ago, it was like, if you have to try to figure out a story for John Wick, maybe there's not one there.
Listen, this guy, like, you created a franchise. I get it. You don't want the story to die. Your baby, you want him to stick around. Brother died, okay? Like, he's gone. Leave him alone. Headstone and everything, John Wick. Over. I'm sorry. Ballerina's not doing so hot. I hate that for you, man. Do something else. Because no one wants to see a retired John Wick. That is so not his character. It is so in his character to die in action.
Yeah.
So I'm done on my John Wick soapbox. I get on like 15 every episode, but that's my last one on John Wick anyway. I know people love A Violent Night. They adore that movie. And so the fact that a sequel's coming and the way that it was announced was David Arbor was sitting by Santa Claus. I think he had a coffee in one hand, and in the other was the script. It said Violent Night 2 on the cover. And he just said, I don't remember what he said. It's something in the caption, witty. And so it was like that's how people were like, oh my God. And so now the internet blew up. So that's another one that is it's a more of a niche. It's one of those like weird horror Christmas movies that come out at like once a year. And this one was big. So that's going to be exciting. But going back to the beginning of this, the fact that Robert Eggers and Willem Dafoe are coming together for A Christmas Story is going to be, it's going to be absolute peak.
Yeah, of course. And then James Gunn has confirmed the development of Wonder Woman. I
got to see
know.
Superman.
1984 didn't do so hot, right?
Nope.
But is this the same world? I mean, come on, right? So what do you mean you got to see Superman? What does it matter?
Because this isn't Gal Gadot. Like, this isn't the Snyderverse. So they're hiring a new person. And I had read too, is like, so another thing that broke today that I didn't get in here because I was too busy doing everything else was Gunn talked about Matt Reeves and Batman 2 and about how it's still happening. And he also referenced in that, he said, 1, be nice and leave him alone because he's slow. And 2, he felt like Wonder Woman was a lot easier to develop because he also talked about his DC film of the Batman, not the Matt Reeves verse, the Brave and the Bold that he's going to come out with. And he said he thought it was easier to do a Wonder Woman film because the Batman's origin has been told and told and told and told and told, whereas Wonder Woman's hasn't. So he felt like it was easier, and I think that's why he's talking about Wonder Woman, is because that film's probably going to come out first. Yeah. But I need to see how he sets that world up in Superman before I could say I'm confident about Wonder Woman. I like James Gunn. I like Peter Safran. I think they'll be fine. But before I can say, yes, for 3, 4, and 5 in terms of like movies in that universe, I need to see what 1 does. Because if 1 is not good, what are we going to do? But...
So was James Gunn the one that said he needs to find a 6'6" woman to play?
Probably, yeah.
And that was his problem.
Probably.
I was like, find me a 6'6" woman and I'll do it. I don't know if that was James Gunn who said that, but I guess he found one.
He got like, dude, his DMs. Like
the whole comment section
literally
was like, bam, bam. There's like several names that people were putting in there.
Honestly, he was probably having a tough time, and he said that, and then he found somebody because, like that, the internet works in great ways like that.
Yeah, you want to know how to find you a 6'6" woman? I guess you just say you need one.
Please,
please, dude, write that down.
For you, baby.
Do that after the episode.
Yeah. Anywho, anything else on what you should know before you go?
I have nothing else.
I have nothing, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is the conclusion of the June 16th episode of Beyond the Screen. Emily, you did so good. Everybody congratulate Emily from behind the scenes. If she doesn't want to pop in, I completely understand, but I would love to hear if she has any final words for our audience. If not, we'll go ahead and let them go. But thank you guys so much for being here. You guys are awesome. And as always, I get like my feels and I get all gushy about the fact that you allow us to do this, but it's amazing. And so again, thank you. And without any further ado, Jake, if there's anything you got to say.
Watch Spaceballs. Watch it.
And comment Kick Patowski if you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see you guys next week.